This is my Lowe 1448M modified V John boat. I bought this boat about 5 years ago. Paid $1,400 for the John boat, the trailer. Guy threw in the spare tire. It had wooden decks, wooden floor and a wooden deck in the front. And he also threw in an old depth sounder and an old Minn Kota transom mount trolling motor. So I thought it was a fair deal at the time. You wouldn't touch that now. You'd probably pay twice that for a boat like that now. Originally had a Johnson 20, an old clunker. I ended up upgrading that to 30 with electric start because I got tired of pull starting the 20. I was never really happy with either of those motors. They burned a lot of gas, they were noisy. So this year I decided to buy myself this nice Yamaha 4-stroke. This is a 25. Beautiful motor. It's so quiet, fuel efficient. It was a huge upgrade. So, you know, I basically had a $6,000 motor on a $1,000 boat. I thought maybe I should spend some time and money here and fix this boat up. So I got a lot of good ideas from the Tiny Boat Nation YouTube channel. And what I ended up with here was pretty much a nice little bass boat. So the first thing I did was upgraded my motor, trolling motor mount. The Minn Kota Edge I bought a couple years ago for $250. It works okay. I think it needs some, probably some new brushes or something. It's down on power, but originally I had it mounted on a block of wood here. I just had this bits and pieces of aluminum and stuff, so I moved the thing over a little bit, and I wanted to have something removable here so I could change the top plate if I decided to put on a different trolling motor. As you can see, it's mounted off center here. The thrust is, you know, ideally would be down the middle of the boat, but I find in practice it really doesn't matter. Like if the skag is down in the water, the boat track's pretty straight anyway. So I carpeted the front deck. And actually before that I installed wiring, so I wired the thing up for lights, which it didn't have before, bilge pump in the back. I put in a Livewell aerator, and I put my accessories on a switch, and it's all fused and stuff as well. So did a lot of wiring first. The wiring runs down this channel on the side of the boat, so all the wiring's on this side. And there's a switch panel over there that I'll get to in a bit. So the deck took quite a while to make. This is all framed in with aluminum, and this is again the idea I got from Tiny Boat Nation. They said to use this 1.5 by 1.5 by 1/16 aluminum L. It's very light and very strong. So there's I think 6 pieces in here. So one down each side. There's another one down here. So there's the sides basically that frame in the hatches, and there's another strip down the edge here, and it's bolted to the ribs. So this deck is really solid. It's 1/2-inch plywood, which again they suggested as being strong enough, and it certainly is quite strong. I sealed all the plywood with resin before I carpeted it, so it should be pretty waterproof. And I bolted it in, so if I really have to, I could take this deck out again. And you know, my workmanship wasn't, or my fitting, I guess, wasn't perfect. There's some gaps here, there's some gaps on the other side. I spent a lot of time trying to measure this thing up. I made a template and I still didn't get it right. So I guess my suggestion is if you do this, maybe make a full-size template or something, and before you cut the plywood. So the framing here, as you can see, it's braced to the ribs. So there's 3 sets of 4 posts here, so that you know makes the deck rock solid. And as you can see, I have my battery mounted in here. This is a Group 27 battery. There's a piece of plywood in the bottom of the boat that's screwed into the ribs, and then there's the battery tray bolted to the plywood. So that battery fits in there there's not a lot of room, but it does fit in there okay. Originally the battery was mounted way back here because I need the weight in the front, towards the front of the boat. It just won't balance with the trolling motor battery in the back. So it was in here. It was kind of taking up a lot of space. It was just kind of messy. And the deck that was originally in here was basically that thing there. Not very high, not high enough to put the battery under. So as you can see now, I've got lots of space, all kinds of space here underneath for storing stuff. I threw some 1/2-inch foam. This is just floor foam. You can buy that Canadian Tire. And it's not great, but at least if there's water gets in here, at least my stuff's not going to get wet particularly. Put piano hinges on these hatches. They were a pain in the butt. This one fits not bad, but you can see it's not perfect. But hey, whatever. So what else here? If we go back here, these are just panels, just carpeted and just screwed in to cover the seats. So my Livewell, I took the original cover off. These boats come with a hinge, a lid that comes up like this. As you can see, this thing had cracked just from, I guess, the vibration of the boat or something. So I ended up, I put in a 3/4-inch aluminum L, riveted it in, put some corner braces in, so that's really nice and solid now. You can see there is my bilge pump, and there's a spray bar up here. So it's a gravity-fed Livewell, so you pop the plug, it fills up, put the plug back in, then you can recirculate the water. If I want to pump it out, I can just pull that hose off, and I've got another piece of hose up in the front. I can pump the water over the side if I want to. So I just put this trolling motor tray in here today, swallowed hard, and cut a big hole in my deck that I spent so much time making. But I think this is going to be a good upgrade. People seem to like these things. The problem I'm having with this pedal is every time you lift and put the trolling motor back down, the pedal moves around. So it's always flying around the deck, and you have to put it in place, and then you stomp on it a few times and it moves. It's just a pain in the butt. So hopefully this tray is going to keep it in place. And I think it also probably strengthened up the deck a little bit, because that's a pretty stout piece of aluminum. I put a doubler in for the seat mount. So there's another chunk of aluminum that goes between those two rails. And it's about probably like 10 thou aluminum with folded, so that's fairly stiff. It didn't stiffen the thing up as much as I thought it was going to. So if you yank on this thing, it'll still move a little bit, and that's because the 1/2-inch plywood still fluxes a bit. So I put some more bolts in it, and it's not as stiff as I'd like it to be, but it's not too bad. So if we go around this side of the boat, take a look at the rod locker. So the other thing I didn't like about this boat was I always had my rods laying someplace. They were kind of in the way. I was afraid I was going to step on them and break them. So a rod locker was something I really wanted. Basically just framed this thing in. So this is, again, more 1/16 L. This particular piece is 1/8 L. I probably didn't need to use 1/8 here. It would have been plenty strong, I think, with this piece of 1/2-inch plywood to stiffen it up. But I wanted to make sure that I could walk on this thing and sit on it and stuff and not have any issues with things bending. So the rod locker idea came again from TB Nation, and this is a 2-inch PVC pipe. It's actually vacuum line for plumbing central vacuum systems. So the pieces here go up way up under the deck. I think they're about 3.5 feet long, and the butt ends are about 8 inches. Again, they're drilled into the foam. There's foam flotation in that back seat. And I just made these little thing here. This is like a piece of neoprene and this little cover on it. So it grabs the butt of the rod where you shove it in, and keeps the rods from bouncing around. I kind of wish I had room here for another rod, but I think this is about as tight as I can get it. So anyway, at least I've got storage for rods. They're out of the way. They're protected. And I got some storage for, you know, I can throw my paddle and my lights and stuff in here. Again, more floor foam here for padding up the bottom. And I just put these little strip lights on the thing as well, so you can light the rod locker, you can light the floor of the boat if you want. So the seat on this thing had already been cut when I bought it, so somebody cut this piece out, and I wondered why the heck they did that until I drove the boat the first time, and then I realized it's just a lot easier to drive if you can swing your feet around into this area here. So kind of glad they did that mod. Lost some flotation, obviously. Whoever did it, it was a bit of a sloppy job, and they put the flotation foam back in, but they didn't do a very good job of filling in the ends, and so I had to brace this up. So there's aluminum bracing here that's braced to the floor. It's not actually riveted to the floor because I'd have to rivet up through the hull, which I didn't want to do. It's basically just sitting on there, and but anyway, it's way more solid than it was before. And I made these new light end panels, and you can see here there's my my switch panel. I made this switch panel myself. I couldn't find one that I really liked, so I just made my own. And I put a little DC outlet jack on it as well. This thing I made a couple years ago. You can see it's paint's starting to wear off, but it was just basically a little tray sitting on top of the seat. Gives me a place to mount my helix and throw my tools and miscellaneous crapola. That's about it. Oh, these panels I just put in but it's just basically just for looks. It covers up the ribs almost, and there's a pink foam flotation behind there, so it does have some function. The floor again is 1/2-inch plywood. It's all sealed with resin, and it's all covered. Underneath there is all pink foam as well. So the pink foam again provides flotation, and it also really makes that floor really solid. It's very, very solid when you walk on it. So so the 1/2-inch plywood definitely works, if you've got it braced up well. The old deck was 3/4-inch plywood. It was pretty heavy. What it cost, I think, with my materials, and I also put in a built-in charger, so I bought this Noco Genius charger here and wired it in. So including the charger, materials, all the aluminum, I had to buy a few little tools and electricals, and the lights were fairly expensive. I've got about probably $2,000 into it now. So fairly expensive, a lot more than I thought it was going to be, but I'm pretty happy with the result. And in terms of time, I spent a lot of time on this thing. I worked on it basically the whole summer, and I figured I'd probably have 130 hours into it, something like that. So as my buddy said, you couldn't pay somebody to do this because it wouldn't be worth their time. But for a project for me, yeah, I think it worked out really well. I'm very happy with this boat.